You're tuned into Life is a Sacred Journey. Every week, we bring a new perspective to aging and caregiving. Here is your host, Michelle Pope.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you in the virtual neighborhood of Life is a Sacred Journey. I am your host, your person, Michelle Pope, that comes every Friday morning at 8 a.m. to share with you some of the good things about life and some of the good things that make life sacred, but also to acknowledge that there are things that we can all work on together. And some of that is the reason that I'm so honored to have our guest here today, Kale Sudhoff. He is a 17-year-old published author. He is a high school student. He is the next generation of leadership that is telling us there's a better way to be inclusive, to act with kindness, all the things that we talk about here at Life is a Sacred Journey as we come out of this pandemic and crashing into each other again. We've got to be gentler with each other and be kinder to each other. So join me this morning in saying good morning to Kale Sudhoff, our new BFF here at Life is a Sacred Journey. Good morning, Kale.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I know that you're a high school student and you are a published author of Danny the Duck. But first of all, why, Kale? I mean, don't high school students have enough to do with school and navigating the journey of friendships and all of that? Why did you decide to become a published author?
Well, I've always loved to draw things. That's a really big part of my identity. I always have loved art classes, and I always draw at home when I have free time. But writing stories is actually a new skill of mine that just sort of happened one day. I was sitting out on my porch, and this V shape of ducks flew by, and I just thought that would be a really cool thing to write a story about. And I guess, well, you have to make your character sort of different and stand out from a crowd and make them have a different personality. And I just have been drawn to people who face challenges in their lives, and I like to just bring awareness to that.
And because you're also growing in an environment and time where we're focusing on so many of our social justice, some of the social justice things that humanity has created for each other and for ourselves. You're talking about friendship and determination. And one of the things that I'm always talking about, Kale, is how to be inclusive and that it's not a one-time experience. So talk about why you chose inclusiveness is one of the major topics of Danny the Duck.
Well, that brings me back to one of my first track meets. I was a sophomore in high school since we got canceled freshman year for COVID. It was the first time that I was at a track meet, and there was this young kid who was running the 2 mile, which is 8 laps around the track. It's a really long race.
Yes.
And he actually went out there, and he very clearly he was born different than the other people out there. And as I watched him, I was standing in a crowd, that entire crowd erupted in laughter as he ran around. And it was extremely hard to watch. But as he came around the next lap, he looked straight into that crowd and he smiled. And that just sort of changed the whole atmosphere of the whole stadium, really. And there was really nobody in that whole crowd that could take that joy away from him. And he kept smiling every single lap that he went around. And eventually some of those people in that crowd actually started cheering him on. So that was really cool to watch. And it just really inspired me to be inclusive of others that are different than us and know that they all face challenges that we can never imagine.
Mm-hmm. And also in that moment, seeing someone overcome adversity, it was also probably an emotion that you took on. Also as an athlete, I'm not an athlete anymore, but I was. And my children both, my daughter ran track and they play basketball, the athletic life. And I bet you were very surprised because usually I know when and my son and daughter, being a team and being inclusive is a part of being a sportsman or a sports person. And so that's kind of weird. I bet that was an emotion that you had to take in at that time. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have been like, wait a minute, guys, wait a minute, don't we bump our hands and everything at the end? Doesn't that mean anything to you? So tell us about Danny the Duck as a character. Share where you pulled from. We know this experience definitely came into Danny's personality, but tell us more about Danny.
Well, Danny is a duck that gets distracted a lot of the time, and that is actually how he becomes disabled to where he can't fly anymore. So in the first book, he actually has to find a new way to get south before the snow comes in because he can't fly anymore. So he has to go find a different way to get to the beach, which is he tries to get into a taxi, he tries a hot air balloon, and just nothing seems to work until he finds something else at the end that eventually gets him there.
Wow. So there's your determination and there's the inclusiveness and your beginning, I guess, the discussion about your advocacy for those who are broken, meaning with physical disabilities, lost limbs. And where did that stem from? From the track?
Yes. And that actually transferred into the next book, which was Danny and Kevin Conquer Camping, which that features Danny and his friend Kevin, who is a pig, and he actually gets into a farm accident and ends up losing his leg, which actually makes him really sad, and he just can't get out of that sadness. And Danny uses his own life experiences to try and cheer him up and show him that life keeps moving on, and he tries to show him all the things that he still has and that Danny's not going anywhere.
Wow. So, Kale, when you think about all the things when you're sitting down, getting ready to put pen to paper, if that's the way you write, or on your laptop, what are you thinking about? What are you envisioning for your work? Because I've been writing a book forever. And I've got many, many chapters, but I'm not there yet. So I really have a great deal of respect for you for the tenacity that it takes to publish, to finish it, to write it. But something's pulling you to do that. What is that?
Well, I never saw myself becoming a writer. And when I actually told other people that I was thinking about writing books and actually trying to do it, I just didn't really get the sense that anybody actually believed that I could do it. And that just sort of installed a drive in me to go out and prove them wrong, to go out and to just make a difference, show others that if I can do it, then anybody can do it. Wow.
You are now in what year of your high school journey?
I'm a senior right now.
Oh, yay. Yeah. Yay. Congratulations, Kale. Are you gonna go into journalism, writing, or what are you thinking about? I always hated the question when I was in high school or college, like, what do you see yourself doing in the next 5 years? Because I was like, I don't know. I don't know. And it changed a lot, but I'm not going to ask you that, but if I'm going to ask you, do you plan to continue to write?
Yes, I do. It's something that I really enjoy. It's a passion of mine, and I would never give that up.
Wow. And are your subjects going to expand, you think, out into other areas, what I call social justice areas, as you and are you looking at any of those other social justice areas now as you're thinking about Danny the Duck's journey along with his friends and all of that?
Yes, I definitely do plan to expand Danny's world and bring him in with new friends that also need help with their other problems. I'm still kind of workshopping that right now. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next, but I'm really excited.
Oh, I'm excited for you as well, Kale. You know, I think we always think that certain people have to solve the problems, but I do believe that it's an intergenerational, it's everybody, every culture together, you know, every hue of humanity. I believe that when we all come together, I've learned so much from you today, and I just am inspired by you. And so now, because I've met you, I have a little bit of more energy to go finish my book. I'm like, come on, Michelle, come on, you can do this. So Kale, thank you for that inspiration today. Tell me about you, what your hobbies are outside of writing, if you don't mind sharing a little bit of who you are with us, Kale.
Well, drawing has always been a huge part of my life. Anytime that I have free time, I always do that. Even if I'm like watching TV or something, I just draw as I'm doing that. I never really like to just sit there and not do anything. So drawing always helps me with that. School takes up a big chunk of time right now.
Yeah.
I do college credit plus classes, so I do that quite a bit during the day. But we actually moved to the lake about 2 years ago, so now I get to fish a lot, which is really fun.
I like to fish too, Kale. You'll have to get together one day.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah. So you're fishing, you're writing, you're preparing for the end of the year, you're sending out, oh my gosh, you must be already applying to colleges and stuff.
Yeah.
Man.
I actually have been accepted to Wright State Lake campus, which is actually really close to where I live. So I'll be attending that next fall.
Oh, good for you. Are you going to stay at home or live on campus? What are you going to do?
I won't live at campus since it's like 1 minute away from my house, but I'll go
right
there.
On, Kale. Save that money.
Yeah. I'll go there most of the time in person, I think, but I might take a few online classes.
There you go. Oh my gosh. Well, Kale, you're an amazing person. I'm not going to even say young person, because I think all of those categories that we put upon each other, we also use that for judgment. You are an amazing person. And so the fact that you have taken time out of your other parts of your life when you're building, because, you know, being a teenager is busy. It's also very frustrating and takes a lot of energy and time all in itself. And to sit down and think about other people and to think about writing a book that might inspire other people to remain focused and determined says so much about the character of the person that you are. And so I want to thank you myself personally, not that it means anything because I'm nobody, but I want you to know there's this person in the world all the way in California that doesn't look like you and probably didn't have the same upbringing that you did, but I had a pretty good one. But we're different. But yet I really feel your spirit and your heart. And I just thank you. And I thank your family because they must be pretty awesome too.
Yeah, they are.
Among them. So do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have a sister named Madeline, and she is 21 years old.
Okay. So you're like, my children are 10 years apart. My son is 34 and my daughter is 24. So they they're very close though. Everybody thought they wouldn't be, but they are, because they just are. That's what family does. So is there anything you want to share with other young people out there, Kale, that might watch this, or that are in high school now and frustrated and not really sure what they want to do? What would you say to them about being creative, writing, drawing, music? I think those are the muses of the heart. So what would you say about that, since you've adopted both of them?
I'd say don't be afraid to give it a shot. I honestly delayed myself a little bit because I really didn't think that I could do it at first, but it just sort of came naturally, like more than I could have ever imagined. And yeah, looking back, if I wouldn't have done it, then I would have regretted it for the rest of my life. It's got me to the point where I'm at right now, and it's pretty great.
I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
Are you going to be able, or have you thought about going out into the community or doing anything online to talk to other high school students or individuals your age that are living with limb loss?
I actually hadn't thought about that, but I'm doing a few other podcasts recently, I think.
Oh, okay.
And I've been featured on, I'm not sure which one it was called, but I got to go read my story on different podcasts, and I've also visited a few different schools to go share my story and read all my books to them, which was pretty awesome.
Do you have a copy of your book with you there?
Yes, I think I do.
Can you show it to us?
Yeah.
This is our friend Kale Sudhoff. He is the author of Danny the Duck. And Danny is a remarkable duck with all the characteristics and values that we try to live every single day at Life is a Sacred Journey. So show us the book, Kale.
This is the cover of my first book, Danny the Duck itself.
Wow. And you drew this?
Yep, I drew it.
Wow.
Thank you.
So we can get these books to support Kale. So let me tell you. Yeah. So on Amazon?
Yep, on Amazon, or my publisher, Imagine We, has a website that everybody can go to.
Okay, Imagine We. And how many books have you published thus far, Danny?
So far, I've done just 2 books. I'm working on a different one right now to try and get published. So we'll see how that one goes.
Okay. Well, if you ever get an opportunity to get out to California, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to take you out to lunch or dinner and show you what I do with people who are living with cognition disabilities, and maybe Danny can help break that stigma that people living with dementia still don't have heart, spirit, and lives to live, because they do. So I look forward to interacting with you throughout your career, when your next book, whatever that book is, when you drop it out and you want to expose it to the universe, because I think we're all a part of a big universe. Let us know, and we would be happy to have you on. Would you do me a big favor and read from Danny the Duck, or your book there that you have? If that's the first one, just read whatever you want to read from there.
Sure.
Oh, I'm excited, everybody. I have a new friend. This is Kale. Thank you, Kale.
Way up north, it was nearing the time for the first snowfall, and all the local ducks knew they had no time to stall. The ducks were getting ready for the long trip south for warmer weather, because if snow were to fall, they'd freeze every tail feather.
Wow. Wow.
There was one duck among them who stood out from the rest. When it came to flying, he was clearly the best. His name was Danny, and he had one particular flaw. He was distracted by almost everything he saw. It was finally time for the ducks to take off into the sky, and Danny was flying as close to the flock as he could be. He was doing just fine until Rusty Raccoon caught his eye and he crashed face first right into a tree.
Ooh, poor Danny.
Danny fell all the way down to the ground, and when he got up, his whole flock was nowhere to be found. He couldn't fly anymore no matter how much he tried. Now how am I going to go south? He said as he sighed.
Wow.
Before long, he flagged down a taxi by the street, and without hesitation, he hopped in the back seat. The taxi drove a few miles until the driver found out he had no cash and threw him out. Now what? Said Danny, who was beginning to pout. When he turned around, there was a small farm off in the distance. He saw 3 horses and decided to go over and say hi. Danny asked them for some assistance. Can you take me south? He asked them, feeling kind of shy. One horse spoke out, I can take you there. And without wasting any time, Danny grabbed his saddle and they galloped away as a pair. They made it quite a ways before the horse got tired and fell on the ground. This isn't going to work, said Danny, but then he heard a strange sound. He heard a loud voice shout, all aboard, followed by a very loud whistle. It was a train. Danny sprinted after it as fast as a missile. No animals on board, the train attendant said, and before he knew it, Danny was on the side of the road, sadly shaking his head. Then Danny saw an enormous hot air balloon, and when nobody was looking, he hopped on board. He went so high he felt like he could touch the moon. Danny was doing just fine until a woodpecker landed on top. He begged him to fly away, but it was too late, and Danny's balloon went pop.
Wow.
After the fall, Danny was by a lake, and he found a small rowboat. He pushed it out and started rowing until he saw something swim below him while he was afloat. Danny saw that it was a turtle, but he leaned over too far and the boat started to sink. If he didn't come up with something soon, he'd surely freeze, so he had to think. Until Danny hopped on the back of a plane just before it started flying. He did it. It's taking me all the way south, he said, happily sighing. He learned to keep moving in forward motion as that plane flew him all the way south to the ocean. He was so relieved that he finally got to where he needed to go, and there was no doubt that he was safe from the cold winter snow. Danny now had a new way of flying south that wasn't always clever, and he could get there faster than any duck ever. The end.
Thank you so much, Kale. Oh, I love that. And the pictures, your drawings are really great. You're wow. Everybody get Danny the Duck. I am getting ready to be a grandmother, Kale, for the first time in July. And I promise you, my granddaughter will know Danny the Duck. So, and I know Felicia has a son. And so I'm sure Danny the Duck will live in Canada too. So I want to thank you so much for coming to Life is a Sacred Journey. Everyone, this is Kale Sudhoff. He is a senior at Salina. Is it Salina?
Salina.
Salina.
Yeah.
Salina High School in Ohio. And a great representation not only of that school, they should be honored that you're going to be an alumni there. Woo, woo, woo. And to his wonderful family. You obviously, again, have a lot of abundant love around you and that you have been taught to fly. And so thank you so much for your advocacy for those that have limb loss. Thank you so much for, again, taking time out of your busy life, because you have one, and, being a teenager and really taking on challenges of humanity, and Life is a Sacred Journey is honored to know you. So come back, and when you finish your other book, we would love to hear more about it, and maybe have you do a book reading for us that we set up and send it out to places. I know a group. I sit on the board of a group called that works with young people in the Bay Area. We're learning how to read. So having someone like you even talk to them about writing it would be a really cool thing. So we'll talk offline about that. So everybody, this is Kale. Kale, is there any last words that you would like to share before we close out Life is a Sacred Journey and you get back to your day?
Well, I'd say never limit yourself. Never let anybody else in this world tell you what you can and can't do, because only you know your limits. Only you can go out there and make something happen for yourself. And even if you're a kid, you're never too young to make a difference. You can go out there right now and change the world, and nothing's stopping you.
That's right. So that's Kale Sudhoff, author of Danny the Duck, a young person among us that is doing many, many things to push the needle, to include those that are living on the outskirts, or what we call the invisible people that walk among us. And so if you're feeling sad to this day, if you're feeling like your life doesn't matter, Kale just gave you a message. And I'm going to give you the flip side to that message. Call 988 and get the help that you need. That's the suicide hotline. You dial that number, text that number. There's somebody on the other end that can help you. And as Kale said, be determined to know that your life matters no matter what you've done, no matter where you are now. You can always, tomorrow's always going to be a little bit better. Maybe not right away, but it will. So thank you, Kale, for joining us today on Life is a Sacred Journey. Why don't you hold on a moment while I tell everybody else goodbye. Goodbye, friends. Have a good weekend. Pet a cat, hug a dog, and hug a tree. You know, I always tell you, go out and hug a tree. It'll change your life. You know how I feel about trees. Be well to yourself, and we'll see you next week on Life is a Sacred Journey. Peace.